Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. It's kitchen time, and boy are we going to make a mess with this lot. As I've said in the recent past, looking at my notes, I think I've got about 40 plants to repot over the next couple of months. Now some will probably just get done as a one-off, and others will be done in a mass like this. But before I start, I'd like to go over my thought processes. As I've got so many to do, there's no way I'm doing them all at once. I will get bored, and when I get bored I get slapdash. So I'd rather do things carefully and when I'm more in the mood for it. Now I probably won't film potting up every single one of these, but we'll go over taking them out of the pot and have a quick chat about each plant. But logic for repotting. First of all, those that are my cool growers and the date in my notes says they've been in their pot quite a while have to come up the front of the list so that they can get settled in their pots before the heat arrives on a regular basis with the long days. So I want to get those up the front of the list. Next highest priority will be ones that have been in their pots the longest, accompanied by what they're in. Because if you think about it, the things like the cattleyas in the holy clay pots, I won't be worried about those for hopefully quite a few years. So even though the repotting date might have, say, been right at the beginning of last year, well, it couldn't have been any earlier, I didn't have the pots then. They're in chunky bark and they're allowed to dry in between. That bark should take a very long time before it starts to break down to any extent. However, if something was potted in the small bark, more so if it was mixed with broken up sphagnum moss, and it's the type of plant that likes to stay moist, that media is going to break down a lot faster. Now I know all of you that grow in inorganic media are sitting there with a very smug look on your face saying, I don't have this problem. Well, I do. This is the way I grow. I like growing in a natural media. It just feels comfortable for me, and to a degree I actually quite like repotting. There are some times when I just have to do it because it's an emergency and I'd rather not. But most of the time, as plants come round, it gives me a chance to really have a good look at the plant, inspect the roots, you know, make sure everything's okay. It is a really good close inspection at that point. And then I update my notes with the condition of the plant, state of the roots, like has it got any? Things like that. Anyway, we'll go over what's on the list. The other reason why this is such an assortment, there's two Paphiopedilums, the Mordier has just finished its spike, the other growth hasn't actually bloomed yet, it may do, it may not. The other Paph has just finished blooming recently, so, and both of those have been in their pots a while, so they're going to get their media changed. Oh come on brain. Masdevallia Snowbird, which actually has a bloom, first one in a long time, getting up for 2 years since this one bloomed. I thought I'd try it in moss and it's not happy. Well, when a plant's not happy, change something. And most of my other Masdevallias are in small bark with some sphagnum moss, and the root systems on those are a hell of a lot better. So this is going to come out of there and we'll try it in the mix that the others are in. Also highly recommended by Wade, and he grows good Masdevallias, so I listen. So that's that one. What else have we got? This is the new one that was sent to me, a little bit of a surprise attack coming up from the rear, big box and all that sort of stuff. But this is in an unknown media, and although I can lift this one out, I've done it before, it's in basically bark. There's some bits of sponge and things. It's not a bad media. It's not absolutely drastic that this does need repotting, but it's coming out the top of the pot where it's got such a good root system, it's lifting the plant up, and it makes watering really difficult because the water runs off and washes all the bark off. So I want to get that one in my normal Masdevallia mix, although that is actually a Masdevallia crossed with a Dracula. An unusual cross, that. So that's that one. I've got a Restrepia here, and this one's never been repotted since I got it, and all the others that came from the Eric Young Foundation have been in pretty good media, so I knew there was no rush for this one. But nonetheless, as I'm doing it and it's on the list, we'll sit that one in. And then the Zygo here, Zygopetalum, this one hasn't been repotted since I got it. I don't know what's in that pot, but what I do know is it's got 2 new growths pushing out, so I'm going to give that a go, more because it's in a unknown media and I've lost these in the past by leaving them in their pots too long. So I want to get the flipping thing out and get it in some known media that is working well for the other Zygos I've got. You know, they're all the same genus, they should, you know, so that should work. The other reason for doing all of those is that they're all going to go in exactly the same media. So I can mix up a big batch and just pop them quickly, one after the other. Whack, 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 done. I do have an exception. That's not going in the same media. That little, oh come on brain, Phalaenopsis has been in that pot quite a long time. Now that bloomed not too long ago, and it has the deep purple flowers with the very pale edges that looks like it's being backlit. But it's the miniature version of a larger one I had that decided to collapse and went out. So that one's gone. But I've still got the mini, and quite honestly, I like mini Phalaenopsis. I don't mind these dotted around. It's those great big strappy things I'm not so keen on, taking up all my valuable shelf space. I'll have a think about that. I'd like to mount it, but I haven't made my mind up yet. A lot of that will depend on what's in the pot. After all this time, that's actually been in there quite a long time, so we'll have a go at that as well. But I can just do that one separately because that's just going to go in large bark or be mounted. All the others are going in the same media. Right, before I carry on, I've got something that I need to do, so I'll be back shortly. Okay, we'll start with the 2 Paphiopedilums. I keep mine in clear pots but inside dark pots to keep the roots dark. That's how they like to be. So I'm aware that I have roots, which is a bonus, but this growth has just bloomed and it's quite, where's my camera? It's quite high in the pot, and you can see the nubbins where it's thinking about starting to grow some new roots. Well, they're no good up there hanging in the air. They won't grow like that. This needs to get down in the pot more. A lot of my Paphiopedilums last time I did them only had a couple of roots and they pointed straight downwards, and they ended up getting potted high rather than cut the roots. Yeah, so that's the reason quite a few of them are sitting high in the pot. It wasn't it wasn't deliberate. It's just how it happened to be. Now I know I've got some roots on this one. I won't say it's an extensive root system, but there are some live roots. Luckily they're not hanging on to the pot. That are good. Okay, what have we got then? We've got what we've actually got is all of them are live roots. That's good. Do you know that I think that's the only Paphiopedilum I've ever taken out of a pot that's still got live, all of its roots are still live. This one's even got a growing tip. It's decided to grow around that one. Yeah, even that one, even though the end's gone, the root's still live. You can see what I probably did last time. I bent that root round. Luckily it didn't snap, to try and get it in the pot. Same with this one. Now Ed recommends deep pots so that their roots can go straight down, but you can see where some roots have gone in the past, and that was probably due to it not being down in the media. Now this one has 2.5 fans. It has this back bit here which currently has 2 leaves and one that's been chopped off at some point. And then it's got this centre fan that's actually only got 2 leaves, and yet it bloomed. I was probably quite surprised at the time. And then it's got the latest fan that has just finished blooming, that's got 3 leaves and signs of new roots. So Ed seems to think the roots like to travel downwards. The trouble is, to get a deep pot, I end up with a big pot. If I have a big pot, it's going to stay wet and start getting soggy at the bottom. So I'll have a think about that. But to have a Paphiopedilum with 3 fans, or 2.5 fans on it, is unusual for me, so I am getting better at the flipping thing. So that's one. Now this one's Mordier. I got this one at Burnham's in Bloom, and I chose it because it was the only one that had a second fan with a bud just starting, so it was about to have a second bloom. And apart from this time round, it's done that every time. I wish I hadn't watered this. I wasn't planning on repotting this, but we've got one root that's gone right through the bottom of the pot, and I don't think that's going to come out without just about. Right, so this one had 2 fans and one old one when I got it, and the 2 fans both bloomed, and then it started to push up 2 new fans, and both of those bloomed. And then this time round it pushed up 2 new fans. So where are all the old ones then? Yet again, the older fans died back. Now I'm in a position now where I've got, that's an old one just hanging in there, 2 old leaves, and then that's the one I've just cut the spike off of, and then this is the old fan, and that's the new growth off of that one. So it's still only got 4 fans, and by now it should have 6. So I'm still losing them. I'm still losing the old bits. But again, I don't see any really manky roots in here. These all look pretty good. That's a manky one. Well, the end of it is. The rest of it's okay. There's a manky one in the middle of the plant that just came off in my Angiorana. Apart from that, as paths that I've looked after in the past, that's the best root system I think I've ever had. But there's a couple of little ends that have gone, so there's a tiny little bit of trimming to do on that, but very, very little. And you can see that the roots have travelled round the pot. But a little bit of a contradiction. If these roots wanted to go straight down, they could have done, because they've gone round at the top of the pot. Well, they didn't have to do that, did they? You know, there was that much pot underneath that plant. If they wanted to go straight down, they could have done. So I'm not so sure about this deep pot thing. I don't want the base of the pot getting really soggy. You know, these roots can rot quite easily. I mean, these are the type of plants, you know, they need to stay gently moist. An occasional drying off is not the end of the world, especially in the winter time. But, you know, they should never stay dry for any length of time. They are moist growers. See, you can see here where a fan's actually died and it's left the old spike attached to the base of the plant. Never seen that before. Anyway, that's what I've got, so that's those 2. Obviously I'll clean them all up and everything before I repot them. What should we do next? Let's get this Masdevallia crossed with a Dracula out of its pot. Now I know this has got good roots, I've seen them, but they are dry at the moment because, you know, the media isn't tight enough into the plant really. It's a bit loosely potted, this one. So even though it's got these bits of sponge in the roots, it is capable of getting quite dry, and at the moment it is quite dry. I mean, it was just about to be watered, so it wouldn't have stayed dry for long, but this one's going to have a good wash under the tap to get the worst of this old media out. And this bark is actually okay, it's not breaking down, so if some of the old bark doesn't come out right up in the base of the plant, it's not the end of the world. So we have at least the basis of a good root system, and we do have new roots growing around the base of the plant at this point in time, and we have new growths. And I am going to leave that as a single plant. I was thinking I might divide it because there is an old piece in the middle where there's no leaves left, and it's pushed out that way, and then pushed back this way. But in a shallow pot, one of my flat shallow pots, that can stay as a whole plant. It's a nice large plant. I'd like to keep it that way. So that's that one. We're getting there. It's a good job I know what my paths look like, because I'm getting the tags muddled up. Luckily these plants are all different. Right, now the worry. Why are you not growing roots? It definitely didn't like being repotted, and it definitely doesn't like, it's just going to lift off. So it hasn't grown roots since it was put in that media. I don't know whether I have got some signs of some new roots in here. I have got new growths, which is the prequel to new roots on these. They usually come together, but that has got virtually no roots. That is not a root system. That's the base of a plant that has lost its root system. I'm not quite sure what to do with this one. There's virtually no new roots here. There's a couple, but not enough to support a plant that big. That might explain why the leaves have started to desiccate. But I tell you what, that plant's going to fall in two, whether I like it or not. So it is going to be two plants. I mean, I didn't pull that apart. That was already separated. Who knows? I might have potted it like that. But this is a virtually no roots on this, but as I say, luckily there are some new growths just starting. Okay, well, there won't be much cleaning up to do on the root area, will there? Because there ain't none. Not good, not good. That was my best Masdevallia, and I repotted it before the media started to break down. I thought we'll get in early before it turns acidic, and we'll try growing it in moss like some of the others do. As I said, what they neglected to tell me was they actually use live sphagnum. There is quite a difference. This dead stuff is inert. Right, we'll do something with that in a minute. What else we got then? We can get the little Phalaenopsis out. As I say, that's just going to go, I'm either going to mount it or put it in large bark, and a lot of it depends on what comes out of this pot. Right, we have got dead roots, but we have got green ones. Not a lot of growing tips. There's a growing tip here. Where's my camera? There's a growing tip here just. There's a relatively new root here. These are gone. It's easy to tell, just give them a tug. It's most of the ones in the centre of the plant. And chances are that might go back to, you know, when I first got it, and it would have had a sphagnum plug killing all the roots in the centre of the plant. There's no point in leaving them on there. They are only going to rot. So we'll trim the last few of those off that don't want to pull off easily. Now there is enough roots there to mount that, and I probably will. Decision not made yet, but I will probably mount it. That would look nice on a mount, growing out like that. And I've got hanging space coming out my ears, as I've said before. It's shelf space I'm short of. There's the tag. There we go. What else we got? We've got a Restrepia. As I say, this is probably going to have a good root system, and in addition to that, the media won't be breaking down, I don't suspect. I just, I don't know, I just like to look. So what have we got then? The media that it had, there's a lot of perlite in there, some sphagnum and some small bark. That's not far off what it's going to get, apart from the fact I won't add the small perlite in. That's naughty. There's a sphagnum plug in the middle of that. I don't expect that from a quality nursery like the Eric Young Foundation. I'd have expected them to have repotted that properly. Strangely enough, the other two that I got from there did not have sphagnum plugs in the middle, so maybe they're getting lazy. Or maybe they got a new person in who didn't know they were supposed to do it, I don't know. Or maybe this set of crosses was just the second go at the same cross, and they knew they were going to sell them all. So they knew that they didn't need to bother, perhaps. He's naughty. Well, we've got good root system. Some of these have got some dead ends, but there's plenty of good roots on there. That should take off nicely. It has got a new growth coming up here. It's pushed out several new growths recently. One here, it's actually got a bud on it. That may or may not make it. So, little Restrepia, very fine root system, ideally suited to small bark and broken up sphagnum. Just the job. That's that one. And last but not least, let's see if we can kill another zygo. Do you know this one hasn't got a tag in it? Why has it not got a tag in it? Because it didn't have one, that's why. It's just a hybrid. Roger is pleased so far, very pleased. It's got a complete hollow, much bigger than the air cone in the pot. So this bit in here has just not had any media in it. I don't want to go too mad here. These are delicate and brittle. They're very delicate and brittle zygo roots. So most of this is going to have to go down the sink under the tap. I don't want to damage one single root if I can help it. And until I wash it off, I can't tell whether I've got dead roots. But if I've got some, there aren't many. Well pleased, that is a good root system. Plenty of lovely fleshy roots and 2 new growths. And quite honestly, let's have a look. This band of roots down here has come from the previous new growth. Yeah? Let's have a look round. Where was the previous one to that? Oh, that is the only new growth on this plant. The other bulbs are older. So, yeah, well pleased with that root system. I should be able to wash that off gently, get some of the sheaths off, and pot that up in a media that seems to be working for me in my environment for zygos, because I've managed to keep some alive more than a month, including this one. That never used to happen. They used to keel over. I mean, in my defence, one did definitely had a virus, and that one went down fast. Luckily, it didn't get into anything else. But yeah, good root system, mainly off of this latest growth, but some of these roots here are coming from the older part of the plant. Good stuff. Right, massive clean-up session, get all the roots prepared, ready for potting, and what I might do is leave the camera running while I do the potting and then speed that section up, so there'll just be some music or something so that you can see them being potted. But I need to get a move on basically, and the camera does slow me down, so yeah. Let's get that sea of green stood up in some pots. I'll be back. Right, welcome back. I know this seems daft to welcome somebody back and immediately say bye bye, but that's what I'm going to do. Long repotting videos are tedious. They are for me, and I'm sure they are for lots of other people. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to film potting these up and talking about them, but I'm going to do them individually so that they will be a set of short videos with the plant type in the heading. That way people can pick and choose whether or not they want to watch any of them or which ones they want to watch, rather than having to wade through the whole flipping lot. So thanks for dropping by, and I'll see you in the set of little repotting videos.